You meet someone new. You click. You laugh. You feel something you haven't felt in a while. Then, the silence begins. A delayed reply, a short text, a sudden change in tone. And just like that, your mind becomes a storm. You start replaying every word, every emoji, every second of the last conversation. Did she lose interest? Did you say something wrong? Or was the connection never real to begin with? If this sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're human. But you've been conditioned by rejection, by uncertainty, and by the modern world to live in your head instead of your body. The truth is, overthinking doesn't protect you from pain. It only makes you relive it before it even happens. And that's what we're going to break today. Chapter 1. The illusion of control. Most men overthink not because they care too much, but because they don't trust the unknown. You see, our brains crave control. When something feels uncertain, especially something emotional, our instinct is to analyze it until it makes sense. It's your mind's way of saying, if I can predict what's coming, I can prepare for it. But early dating doesn't work that way, because connection isn't logical. It's emotional, fluid, unpredictable. And trying to dissect it is like trying to trap the wind in your hand. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control, and some things are not." And this is the foundation of emotional peace. In dating, her feelings, her replies, her rhythm, those are not in your control. Your presence, your energy, your actions, those are. Yet most men reverse it. They give away control to what they can't influence and neglect what they can. They obsess over her responses instead of mastering their own mindset. Overthinking is your mind's attempt to regain power. But the paradox is, it only makes you lose it faster, because the more you chase clarity from someone else, the less clarity you have within yourself. Chapter 2. The uncertainty phase. Early dating is naturally uncertain. You're still learning who she is. She's still learning who you are. You're both dancing between interest and caution, between curiosity and fear. But most men mistake uncertainty for danger. They believe that not knowing means something is wrong. This is where anxiety creeps in. That anxiety pushes you to decode every little detail. Her tone, her timing, her punctuation, everything becomes a clue. But here's the reality. You're trying to decode a person, not a puzzle. The Stoics believe that suffering doesn't come from events, it comes from judgment. You assign meaning to her silence. You label her slower reply as rejection. You call your uncertainty failure, when in reality, it's just space. And that space is where real connection grows, if you can handle it without panicking. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The moment you stop trying to control the outcome, you return to calmness. And calmness is where attraction thrives. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who can sit in uncertainty and stay grounded. Chapter 3. The root of anxiety, fear of rejection. Let's be honest. Overthinking doesn't come from curiosity, it comes from fear. Fear of losing something before it's even yours. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being blindsided again. Every man who overthinks is carrying memories of a moment he didn't see coming. A ghosting, a sudden coldness, a text that ended everything he thought was real. And that memory becomes a lens. You start seeing new women through the pain of the old ones. So every delay feels like distance. Every silence feels like abandonment. But this is where emotional self-mastery begins. Because she isn't your past. And this moment isn't the same story repeating, unless you let it be. Overthinking is a trauma response disguised as logic. Your mind says, if I can predict rejection, I can prevent it. But what you're really doing is reliving old wounds in new situations. You're not trying to understand her, you're trying to protect yourself from pain that already happened. The Stoics faced the same inner battle. They practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, imagining worst-case scenarios not to feed fear, but to free themselves from it. When you can face rejection, even imagine it, and realize you'd survive, you stop needing control over it. You stop analyzing every detail for proof that it's coming. You simply let life unfold. That's where real freedom begins. Chapter 4. When logic becomes your enemy. Overthinking feels intelligent. It feels productive. But it's actually emotional avoidance. You're not analyzing her messages because you want answers. You're doing it because it distracts you from feeling uncertain, vulnerable, and exposed. It's your mind trying to solve emotion, but emotion doesn't obey logic. You can't reason your way into connection. You can only feel your way into it. The Stoics never taught men to suppress emotions. They taught men to understand them, to master the response, not deny the feeling. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." When you see her delayed reply as a threat, you create your own suffering. But when you see it as neutral, just a message that hasn't arrived, you remain in peace. The goal isn't to stop caring. It's to stop assigning catastrophe to neutrality, to stop turning every pause into a rejection story. The modern world has made men mistake analysis for control, when in truth, control only exists in acceptance. You don't win peace by decoding signals. You win it by mastering your internal signal, your response. Chapter 5. The present moment is the cure. If you pay attention, you'll notice something. When you're truly in the moment, laughing, flirting, connecting, you don't overthink, because your mind and your body are aligned. Overthinking only begins when the mind leaves the moment and drifts into imagination. That's why Stoics and later mindfulness teachers emphasized presence. The more time you spend inside your thoughts, the further you drift from reality. Overthinking is mental time travel. You replay the past, you predict the future, but the only place attraction, connection, and peace exist is now. When she's not replying, you can spiral for hours, or you can bring yourself back to your breath, to your life, to what's real. Because that's where your power is. You can't force a text. You can't predict a feeling, but you can master your state. A calm man is always more attractive than a calculating one, because calmness shows trust in yourself and in life. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing certainty, people feel safer around you. Your stillness becomes magnetic. Your detachment becomes power. Because you're no longer begging for control, you've become it. Chapter 6. Reflection. Take a moment to think about this. When was the last time you truly enjoyed getting to know someone without overanalyzing it? Chances are it was before you got hurt, before you learned to protect yourself through prediction. The modern dating world teaches men to strategize instead of connect, to decode signals instead of feel energy, to play it cool instead of be real. But the most magnetic energy a man can have is presence, without expectation. She doesn't fall for your timing or tactics. She falls for how calm she feels in your energy. And that calmness can only exist when you are calm within yourself. The Stoics weren't anti-emotion, they were anti-chaos. They believed in cultivating inner order so the outer world couldn't shake it. You don't need to know where it's going. You just need to know who you are while it's happening. Because the man who's at peace with uncertainty is the man every woman feels safe with.
You see, in the old world, a man's mind rested between silence and purpose. He could wait. He could think. He could breathe between messages, between actions, between emotions. But today, there is no space, no silence, just notifications, just noise. Every vibration in your pocket feels like an emotional lottery ticket. Maybe it's her. Maybe she finally replied. Maybe she liked my story. And the mind begins to feed on maybe. The psychological loop. Every scene with no reply becomes a micro-rejection. Every delayed text becomes a story your brain invents. Every social media post turns into a test of your worth. This is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the same principle that keeps gamblers hooked at a slot machine. You never know when the next reward is coming, so you keep checking. You keep hoping. You keep spinning the mental reel waiting for the hit of validation. And the modern man becomes addicted, not to her, but to the possibility of being wanted. The illusion of connection. We live in an era where communication is constant, but connection is an illusion. We confuse access with intimacy. We mistake attention for affection. You see her online, you see her stories, you see fragments of her life, and your mind starts to weave those fragments into a narrative. She must be interested. She must be thinking of me. She must be trying to make me chase. But maybe she's just living. The Stoics would call this the error of assumption, the mind's tendency to project meaning where none exists. Marcus Aurelius said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Your suffering isn't coming from her silence. It's coming from the story you're telling yourself about what that silence means. Attachment and hypervigilance. Every man who overthinks in early dating has one thing in common: emotional hypervigilance. It's that constant scanning for signs, tone shifts, and hidden meanings. It's a survival instinct born from past pain, the breakup that blindsided you, the ghosting you didn't see coming, the betrayal that taught you never let your guard down again. Now your nervous system doesn't just want love, it wants control. It wants safety before surrender. But Stoicism teaches us that control is an illusion. You can't control her pace, her mood, her interest, or her uncertainty. You can only control how you interpret it. And that's where true power begins. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." You can choose stillness instead of panic. You can choose trust instead of tension. You can choose presence instead of performance. Masculine frame versus validation seeking. Here's the paradox of masculine energy. The more you chase validation, the less validation you receive. The more you need certainty, the less certainty you'll ever find. Why? Because women don't respond to emotional pursuit. They respond to emotional presence. The masculine frame isn't about dominance. It's about groundedness. It's about being so internally stable that her actions don't determine your mood. When you're in that frame, you're not analyzing every text. You're not dissecting emojis. You're not spiraling over pauses. because your worth isn't waiting on a reply. Your life doesn't freeze between messages. You remain rooted, calm, composed, in motion. The social media mirage. We live in a simulation of connection. Everyone's performing, curating, showing their highlight reel. So when she posts a picture with another guy, your mind doesn't see pixels, it sees a threat. When she doesn't reply for hours but uploads a story, you feel disrespected, forgotten, as if every post is a personal message to your insecurity. But here's the Stoic truth. Her behavior is neutral. It's your interpretation that gives it power. A free man doesn't ask, "Why didn't she text me back?" He asks, "Why does her silence have this much power over me?" That's where transformation begins. Breaking the loop. So how do you break free from this psychological loop? You detach from outcome. You stop needing the story to end a certain way. You train your mind to find peace in uncertainty. Because real confidence isn't, "She'll like me," it's, "I'll be okay even if she doesn't." And that's the kind of energy that attracts without trying, because it carries no desperation, no force, no expectation. It's the same energy the Stoics lived by. Calm, composed, surrendered. They didn't chase certainty, they built character. They didn't try to predict outcomes. They prepared their minds for all of them. The modern Stoic mindset. When your phone tempts you to overthink, pause. When your mind starts to spiral, breathe. When the silence feels unbearable, remind yourself, nothing is owed, nothing is lost, everything unfolds as it must. The Stoic doesn't resist uncertainty. He rides it like a wave. He understands that peace isn't found in control. It's found in surrender. So, brother, the next time she takes hours to reply or leaves you hanging in silence, don't chase meaning where there is none. Let her silence be silence. Let her space be sacred. And let your peace be proof that you no longer need anyone to complete your calm.